Welcome back, friends. Today we're looking at a very special group of music store picks. In fact, the most special group I considered in my collection. A lot of music store picks are rather boring, especially those from the 70s and 80s, much like the artist picks, a standard 351 for the most part with basic print. But that's not what's happening here at all. We have the names of 5 different guitar stores, over 19 picks in 6 different shapes and 8 tortoise styles, plus the white. Now those are just factual details. Let's talk about why they're special, then we'll get back to the names and who they are or might be. First, dealing with the Ault pick. The Ault really caught my attention for a couple of reasons. This is not the large triangle. This is a medium-size 356 D'Andrea triangle, and that stood out. But the name itself, the Ault pick, the basic print, and then in the middle you have a cursive style. It's the only pick I know, store pick I know of, or other that comes to mind at the moment, that features a block lettering and the cursive style. If you go up here, this is perhaps the most special pick on the board, and the reason is that's the original 347 shape. It's illustrated in the 1940s D'Andrea catalog, and something similar to it occurs in the earlier catalog, 20 years earlier to that in 1927. But here we have it in the 347, but when we turn it over, we see a cork grip on it. And that is so super rare. It's the only store pick I know of that has in a 347 that has a cork pad on the back of it. In addition, just finding the 347 with a cork ring or cork pad period is excruciatingly difficult. And here we have it on a pick that's printed. It's a store pick, 2 different font styles. So this one pick has a lot of distinguishing features to it. And we could see there were at least 4 variations, probably more, here in the 346, the 357 as we mentioned, in your standard 351. You can notice this particular tortoise here jumps out at you. Let's take a look at it close up. Wow. The camera a chance to focus. There you go. Isn't that pretty? Very, very striking with that bright orange in there, in between the amber and the dark brown. So the Ault pick, who is Ault? Well, that's not known. Does it mean Ault, Colorado? That's possible, but that's a very small town and it's unlikely. Hopefully some information will turn up, or you, the viewer, knows something about this as a music store. And I'm pretty sure it was a music store, although that is not finite or firmly established yet. Moving over here to the upper right, we have the Peates pick. Peates is from Canada. They've been in business since 1899. They're all over Canada. Guitar Store Plus. They sell everything now these days. But it's a really great pick. Basic font style. Here, once again, you could see the Peates in a trapezoid shape 361. Again, D'Andrea, just as the Ault. And did I need anyone to tell me D'Andrea made that? No, and the reason is these are specific D'Andrea shapes. Same with this 367. Really difficult piece to come by, regardless of how you find it, name or no name. 5 Peates picks there in 4 different shapes. Really glad to have it. When they came about, it was the only group of Peates I've ever seen before or since. So good to have that represented in the collection. And if we go down to our bottom here, we could see McCord's music. Right here we show Fred McCord. And they go back a ways, at least to the 1940s. A lot of chatter about him in chat rooms on the internet, I see. A lot of people seem to remember that store in Dallas, Texas. Nice cursive print. Anytime you could find the cursive writing like this, which very similar to the very first Fender picks that were made, you know you got something special on your hand. It's as though someone hand wrote it, and that was what was proper at the time. And if you grew up in the 50s and 60s, you know you were taught that in elementary school. you're going to use cursive, and that's it. And here we see it. Now there's no such great emphasis on whether you print block letters or cursive style, but back then there was an emphasis on it. And it represented a certain level of, not necessarily sophistication, but formality, let's say. And that's what's cool about the McNeil right here, right next to it. Now, what can I tell you about the McNeil? Well, actually, nothing. Aside from the fact it could be related to the Charles McNeil who a few years earlier wrote some banjo books and was featured in Will Hoover's guitar pick or book entitled Picks. So it could be related to Charles McNeil, but that's unknown. Once again, the cursive style, really neat pick, and you can see I only have one on the board. So they are hattable, but scant, and perhaps you might come across a few, and if you do, give me a call. Finally, moving over to Farbers, what's so distinctive about the Farbers? They are on a traditional 351. However, again, we have that cursive style rating, very similar to the McNeils and the Fred McCord and the Ault name right in the middle of the Ault pick. But the celluloid that it's on is known to be celluloid that Fender printed on in their first picks from 1955 to the late 50s. Now, Fender's first edition did run through at least 1964 and stopped there, so for a 9-year period, that first Fender logo stood out. But the celluloids from the 50s were much like these. I'd estimate these to be right about the year I was born, 1958. Look how distinctive and gorgeous that is. I'll give this a little light test while I have the light right over here and see what that looks like. Now, I don't usually backlight picks like this in my own collection. I use a light box, and this light is giving me a little difficulty right now. So, just a moment. Let me see if I can grab another one. Let's take a look at some of these distinctive celluloids. So I had mentioned backlighting the picks. I don't use a flashlight to backlight them, and it'll even stand out better behind that or in front of that white, as you could see right there. But when you do backlight them, they really jump out. Like I said, I do use a light box to examine the different tortoise styles and make distinctions that aren't otherwise evident if they were just laying on the table. So this is a great group of picks, just 19 here, but just I would emphasize the Ault pick up here, 347 with the cork, the fact that many of these have a distinctive font style in cursive. That's something to look out for. And then this basic lettering like you see here on the Peates. That's an indication that the printing at the time was not that sophisticated. And there weren't a lot of options, I understand, to select from fonts back then. All these made by the DeAndrea Company, and we're going to be seeing so many more picks that were made by DeAndrea. Let me bring them back into focus, sorry. So you could just have one last look before we check out here. There we go. Some of the very special music stores and names. We'll be taking a look at more music store names in the future. Thanks, Joe Macy, FindPick7 at yahoo.com. Play more picks. Take care. Bye-bye.